All systems nominal.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me today is Sean Suchanya. Is that how did I pronounce that
Suchanya.
correctly? Suchanya. Terrible pronunciations. You'll have to forgive me. He is coming
No
to
worries.
us. He is coming to us straight from the other side of the planet in Singapore, and is now at my point 10 p.m., 10 a.m. in his neck of the woods. You are quite possibly the most distant guest I have had on this show to date.
I'd imagine, yeah. Exactly 12 hours apart,
Yes.
time-wise.
And as you can see from his background, which for explanation, I'm moving in a week or two, so there's a reason why there's nothing behind me lately. But let me just fix that a second. There, better. Okay. We'll have a little something to look interesting to look at on my side. One of the
Beautiful.
reasons why this man has such a lovely collection that is because this man is a maker of miniatures, such as this fine example right here. He is the designer of the game Eisenfront and the proprietor of Center Fire Hobbies. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for sending me this thing. This is great. This was as you mentioned to me earlier, off air. This was the first design that you made for your line, the
That's right.
Doberman Mech.
It wasn't the first I designed, but it was the first model I made when I was toying around with Fusion 360 when I was trying to transition to a new software at the time.
Nice. Well, whatever the hell you were doing, you did a good job. This thing is really nice, and I must say, assembling it was very easy, especially considering that for miniatures like this, oftentimes you have to use glues and stuff like that, just get everything to fit together. This thing just snaps together like a regular model kit, which is added bonus for somebody like me who does that kind of thing a lot.
Well, the newer models do require glue because some of the components like the torsos have more underhangs, so I had to swap them. I have to split them up into more components. So yeah, unfortunately, some of the future pieces and even the current ones do require glue to put together.
Yeah, but in those cases, it's primarily like elements that are supposed to fit together more permanently than others, as opposed to this baby, who, as we'll discuss later, very, very modular. You can swap out the arms, legs, backpack, weapons, the works, which is really, really cool. I mean, I've seen, other lines of miniatures, you need to put like little magnets or stuff like that, drill like little pinholes, put tiny magnets to hold everything together.
Yes.
They often do that.
Yeah.
These
Yep.
ones are way, way easier for someone like me who doesn't do that on a regular basis. So kudos for that.
I'm definitely a sucker for like modular posable toys because I also do collect action figures. You can tell from the
Yeah.
collection behind me. So like static miniatures, as much as I love them, didn't really cut for me. I kind of want them to be able to be fully posable, fully swappable. So
Mhm.
there's at least a play value if you are not into the gaming aspect of it. Also makes
Yeah,
it easier to create custom dioramas.
exactly. Yeah. So speaking of, how did you get into tabletop gaming?
Interestingly, it actually started years and years ago when I was a little wee lad, and I went to Whistler for a holiday,
Mhm.
and I walked into a games workshop, and there was a very beautiful Space Marine army painted in camouflage colors, and I remember walking out of that store with my dad with Space Marine Combat Squad, the third edition Space Marine Codex, and a paint set, and that's what it got how it all started.
Well,
So I was always into the hobby aspect more than the gaming.
yeah. Well, Games Workshop has probably done that to a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's one thing those guys know how to do, it's sell plastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I've naturally like these days I've severely toned down. I don't buy regular releases anymore. I'm still a sucker for when they put out their collector's edition models, the ones that pays homage to like the classic models,
Yeah,
classic
yeah.
but like the regular like technical squad boxes and all that, I can't it's just it's just gotten too expensive.
Yeah, I know what you mean exactly. Just let me put do not disturb on this thing. I know what you mean. The Games Workshop is notorious for really, really jacking it. Like lately, they already did it again. They jacked up the prices on a whole bunch of their
They
stuff.
did, yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's like,
It's like
okay, we get it. You're popular. You don't have to rub it in.
especially since these days, like when I used to be an absolute shill for Games Workshop, I would even buy like the silly GW branded hobby products, the hobby knives and all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
jazz.
The lifestyle
But,
brand stuff.
but these days, because I also collect other miniatures, other toys. So when I look at, like, say, in Singapore, a hero unit, Primaris Captain is like 50 odd Singapore dollars, 55 Singapore dollars, whereas I can buy a master grade Gundam, a much bigger 1 to 100 master grade Gundam
Yeah.
that's fully posable for similar price. And it's just you just kind of see, like, why am I forking out this kind of money for this small
Yeah.
model?
For something that small, and
Especially with the advent of 3D printing. You can
yes.
produce, I mean, like, technically the amount of money they spend on producing those models are pennies on the dollar. Same thing with
Yeah.
3D
You
printing.
can imagine the kind of profits they're making considering the, cost of manufacture in that regard. Even if they're
Yep.
manufacturing it locally as opposed to outsourcing it to places where it's even cheaper.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of those models, like I've got one here. I had one of them that I still had on the shelf here that I made. This one's for my birthday back in February.
Free bumps, yes.
Yeah, actually, I have no idea. My wife got me this for my birthday. She knows I like the kind of real robot looking military
Mm.
style mechs. This one's cool because it's got. Uh, okay, give me a sec. I gotta turn off the background. The background. Okay, the background was a great idea, but frankly, it's just a pain in the ass. Okay, you can see I kind of like the way that the legs actually will deploy out to give it some bracing, so it has extra room for the when the missiles come out here.
Yep.
These
Yep.
massive like missile launchers on the arms, and it's got these cool like
Kotobukiya kits are fantastic with their gimmicks, like all these folding components and
Mm.
whatnot.
Yeah, and then plus the way they showed them off, there's actually ways of having these placed on the shoulders attached there so
Yes.
that they go deploy out, which is pretty cool too. But just to show
Yep.
like, a comparison in terms of size, here's your Doberman model here versus
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
And honestly, like you were saying I checked when I was checking your catalog, I checked, what the conversion rate for Canadian dollars. The Singaporean dollar and the Canadian dollar was off by a penny.
Yes,
So
it's
yeah,
it's pretty much almost exactly the same. I think right
yeah.
now it's also similar with the Australian dollar.
Oh, that's handy. I imagine like also in terms of, miniatures and model kits and stuff like that, being so close to, well, Japan and stuff like that, where, Gundam was born and stuff like where
Yep.
Gunpla was born, that's got to really have an influence on the kind of selection of stuff that you have available.
Yes, yes. Actually, one great thing about Singapore is, as expensive as it can be, we do kind of have the best of both worlds, because, like, we go to Toys R Us, we've got the Western toys and
Mm.
all that, but there are dedicated hobby stores in Singapore that brings in a very good selection of Gunpla Kotobukiya kits. Some of them have
Mm.
even expanded to, China's produced some new model kits as
Yeah.
well, the original stuff, and they've also brought those in, like
Uh,
this one right here. I don't remember the name of it. It just looked kind of like an armored core, but
mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's got some nine balls energy to it. A nine
but yeah, that
breaker, sorry.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a lot of good selection here in
Mhm.
general. In fact, I went to I went to Japan earlier this year in February, and because of the sheer tourism that has taken over the the Japanese sphere, it's actually Singapore actually has a better selection of gunpla sometimes than in Japan itself. Like, when you
Really?
go to the nature department stores, a lot of the stuff is cleared out.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, going to it's like if you're looking for something at the same mall that everybody else is going to, obviously
especially
you're
the
gonna
H especially the HG Universal Century kits.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah,
are
yeah. Of
mostly sold out.
course. Yeah, I've got a few of those. I got Char's Red Comet at least I don't know if I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly the quality level of the ones that I've got, but I definitely think I've got the HG for Char's Red Comet Zaku, the red one. That one's pretty
Right.
cool. Yeah, that one was pretty cool. It's got all the little flaps and everything that move on it. Have the underlying skeleton that you build first, then build the armor on top.
Oh, is that a real grade kit, RG?
I think so. I can't remember. As I said, everything's boxed up and
All right.
shed waiting for the move. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that also like over the in terms of like Toys R Us and stuff like that. Over here, I was going into like a dollar store and just checking out the toy
Yep.
section because obviously I'm going to check out the toy section, and there was actually tiny little baby's first Gundam toys, basically like just easy to put together, like just the like the arms and legs were removable and the head and the head and just assemble it yourself kind of thing. No,
Are they actually bootlegs or are they official Gundam products?
have how would I be able to tell, frankly? But I think they were official. And
I
it
think
was
I know
actually,
which one. I think I know exactly which one you're referring to. The really budget action
yeah,
figure ones.
they come
They
to
did not
when you
sell
collect
too
them all, you
well.
can build yourself a green Zaku. So
Yes,
each one
that's
comes
it.
with, yes, each one comes with the parts for that. The ones
Yep.
I got myself the RX-81 one and the another Char Zaku just so they could fight each other because I'm that kind of person. I'm 40 years old. I'm playing with toys.
You know, sometimes boys don't grow up.
Yeah, it's either you either grow up or you grow old. I guess I just packed on the gray hairs.
Yep.
Hey, I'm not complaining. I wouldn't be on YouTube if I had any lack of interest in all this stuff. So hey, I'm glad I still have a certain amount of youthful heart.
That's true. I mean, the kind of people the folks I all hang out with, they're also like Transformers
Mm,
collectors, GI Joes,
mm.
some of even there's also the resurgence of Masters of the Universe toys as well.
Oh, of course,
So
yeah, with the
yeah,
Netflix shows and stuff like that.
especially yeah, all of us are just kind of reliving our childhood.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, there wasn't really anything like this that I had access to. All the tabletop games that I had was basically Dungeons and Dragons or nothing else
Mm,
because you know how it is. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. If you don't want to play that, well, your choices are pretty limited, and there wasn't really that much of a BattleTech or anything like that tech
yeah,
related tabletop scene where I was growing up. So basically, I'm late in the game for a lot of this stuff.
right.
What's the tabletop and gaming kind of sector in Singapore?
I'd say I wouldn't really say it's absolutely huge, but I say it's got a healthy community. In fact,
Mm,
like next month I'll be exhibiting Eisenfront in a local tabletop convention in Singapore.
nice.
And yeah, there are quite a number of hobby stores here around. I don't know about Canada, but many of the hobby stores here they would give you a 20% off for GW products if you're a membership, because I think that's the maximum discount Games
Mm.
Workshop will allow a retailer to
I'm
give.
surprised they allow any kind of discount.
Like I've noticed that like when you see online stores, they tend to give a 20% off because that seems to be the maximum.
Yeah. It's like, we're not actually giving you a deal considering how much we charge for this stuff, but we're making you feel like you're getting a good deal.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Uh,
It's the illusion of value.
yeah. Well, speaking of value, you created Center Fire Hobbies, your own company for making miniatures and gaming. How did that come about?
Um, originally, originally, before I worked on Eisenfront, I was trying my hand at another tabletop slash board game, which was more of a how would I describe it? Do you know the game Advance Wars on the Nintendo
Yeah, yeah,
series?
I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah,
Lots of little,
something
little tank battles
something
and
like
stuff like
Advance.
that, turn-based strategy thing.
Yeah, except is a hex base. Actually, it's more like Panzer General. I was
Hmm.
thinking of Diesel Punk weird World War Panzer General sort of a concept at the
Hmm.
time. So that didn't really take off. Then one day I decided to model a bunch of robots, and during local con I displayed both stuff side by side, and people were leaning towards the robots. So I went, okay, I think it's about time I took a shift. And as I started modeling my robots, I designed weapons for them. My friend said, "Hey, these weapons can actually fit another series of figurines called Desktop Army, which are these little figurines right here, small. So technically, Eisenfront weapons will fit on these figurines." And then he suggested I work on 1 to 12 scale figures as well. Marvel Legends, frame angles, and whatnot. And it's from that I just decided to expand my
repertoire.
Yeah, my inventory and whatnot. Then slowly surely attended a few more cons. Then eventually I build up the online store.
Yeah, and you've got a definitely good selection. I'm seeing here you have the 112 scale ones, the 124 scale, an entire selection, of course, dedicated to Eisenfront itself. What was the initial, impetus to creating not just miniatures, but your own war game to go with them?
Oh, actually, you can tell. Well, you can tell that Eisenfront is heavily is a little love letter to Front Mission.
I may have noticed that. Yeah.
So when I first started playing Warhammer, I was thinking how cool it would be if there was a Warhammer RTS game, and then Dawn of War came along. And as I was playing Front Mission, I was thinking how cool would it be if there was a Front Mission style tabletop war game?
Yes.
I mean, yes, there was BattleTech out there, but for a very, very long time, Square Enix wasn't really doing anything with the Front Mission IP.
They still aren't, frankly.
So at least until recently, when they announced the remakes.
Yeah.
So this was about five odd years ago, maybe more, when I started Eisenfront, and I was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And then I started modeling these batch of robots.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's just what happens. You start waiting around for somebody to do it, and then finally, screw it, I'm gonna do it, and there you go. That's how it gets started.
It's really interesting because there's also small but loyal subsect of Mech enthusiasts, and we've talked about this before. Other indie game makers who are very fond of Front Mission, and they're making their own Front Mission style fan games like Creekfront.
Creekfront Tactics, yeah. Awesome game. I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit.
Oh yeah. I've replayed it. I've replayed that demo so many times.
Yeah. I covered it on the combat demo on my channel when it came out. It's just like, yeah, this is fun. I mean, it took me a while before I could actually get a run where nobody got blown up, but it was fun.
It was very fun, yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see that there are all these dedicated fans who are doing their little Front Mission homages, and then suddenly, when they announced the Front Mission remake games, things kind of just started to blow up. We've got those Front Mission action figures, but Wonder Arts, the Front Mission model kits, which are
yeah, I've got Glenn's Zenith. Well, I had it on my shelf until it got packed away, but I do.
That's the one I'm going to try assemble next. Actually,
yeah, it's pretty cool looking. I'm not sure if it's the same thing because it didn't really require much assembly. Just snap the arms in and legs in. It wasn't like like a full model kit where you have to assemble it from scratch like this one here. So I don't think it was the same one, but it looks damn cool on my. One thing I loved about that, all the weapons actually have the full serial number on the side of it. So it's like, 25 millimeter auto cannon designed by this company. So it's a nice little touch with those things.
The only thing that bugged me about the new Front Mission model kits is that their hard points on the shoulders and the wrists, they're not 3 millimeter yet, they're 2.5 mm. So I can't kit bash the Kotobukiya models I have on it, and also my kits, they are actually 3 millimeter, so that they're compatible with gunpla, and well, I can't put those weapons on these, so I'm a bit bummed about that.
Yeah, I suppose you need
probably
like a little
proprietary system.
Yeah, you need like a little very thin little cylinder you could put on the pegs to give them a little bit extra thickness so they'd fit, I guess.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, as in the sockets are too small. They're 2.5 mm. So
in that case, you need a little drill or something to just
you'll need to drill it in, and if you drill it in, you can't fit the original missile pods anymore. Unless you
something tells me maybe they did that on purpose, just so you'd have to use their own stuff.
Probably.
Yeah.
Interesting fact, I'm not very sure but the company that did those kits, they're also tackling armored core kits as well.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, the 30-minute mission Armored Core models. Those are gonna be sweet.
30-minute missions. Kotobuki has also announced the new Steel Haze kit, and also those Wonder Arts model kits. So yeah. I noticed that whenever there's a reset of either Armored Core or Front Mission, both of them tends to prep one another because people who play Front Mission also tend to play Armored
They
Core.
do have a lot in common in terms of like one of the things that really makes this kind of mech game work is the customizability, not just in terms of like, oh, I'm going to choose
Mhm.
weapons. I'm going to choose the entire underpinning of my mech from scratch, build up the superstructure, and then just, swap in legs, arms, radiator, engine, the works.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Do I want this booster over here that gives me a 0.2% increase to my speed, or do I want to increase the armor, which will increase my survivability by
Yep.
0.75% over the next 3 missions? Or do I just want to swap out a big ass fucking Gatling gun? Well, tiny ass Gatling gun. Nice.
There's the Armored Core meme of spending most of your time in the garage,
Yeah.
in the garage building up your custom ride, then going onto a mission, getting it blown up in 5 minutes, and then going back to the garage again. And this is peak gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that Armored Core 6 did good in that regard is that it sped that up quite a bit, since you can just like, okay, I just lost, go immediately to the garage and change things up before I started everything.
Yeah, they made Armored Core 6 suddenly a bit more accessible because you could, even if you die mid game, you could change your build mid game before a boss and
Yeah.
then edit it accordingly. Like
And you couldn't go
I tried playing
bankrupt.
the P I tried playing the PS1s and PS2 games, and they were hard.
They are true FromSoft games in every way you can think of in those cases. I mean, somebody managed to do like a emulated repack where it actually gives it proper dual stick controls and everything like that. So
Oh,
you
I
can
imagine that'd be such a big quality of life improvement.
definitely for like, the controlling the camera. It's still hard as balls though, as you can imagine, because
Yep.
all like people who've never played the original Armored Cores, like 1 through 3, especially, I think probably up to there, because that's one of the ones that really does set the tone for the rest of the series going
Yeah.
forward. And then 4 changed things up by making everything super fast and things like that.
Yeah.
But those ones, if you suck at the game, you're not gonna get things are not gonna get any easier for you. You're gonna
No, no.
lose money on repairs and the ammo you spent trying to beat the level, and you're not gonna get paid because you failed, and chances are the mission is no longer available, so you can't try it again. You're just
Or you
gonna
go
have
into
to
such a
limp
huge debt.
forward. Yeah.
Or you go into such a huge debt, you sell your body to for modifications and
Yeah.
restart.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get a little bit of a
Human
boost.
Plus.
Yeah, human plus. And if you go through it a couple of times, by the end you're like, all right, fuck it. You got infinite health. You got, super powered lasers. You got a radar system that you don't need to, integrate new parts. Sure, you're a, more machine than man, but, at this point, who cares?
Yep.
Have at it. It's like you have to earn your bonuses by failing over and over and over again. How many games actually do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's without thinking of all the hidden items and all that stuff, which also you do have that in the front mission games. Like you go on when I did my review of the remake, I went on one of the bonus missions where you have to defend the dam from the USN troops coming in to destroy it, and I got myself a Clinton mobile weapon out of it. So that was a nice little surprise.
Was that in the first front mission game?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's the
Right.
one that looks like a big ass tarantula with a giant machine gun on the front.
Ah, yes. Yep, I
Yeah,
remember.
that was actually pretty fun. It can take us. You can't really upgrade it that much since you can't swap out weapons, but at least for a good number of missions, it's a pretty tanky bastard. So it really is useful, especially if you got
Right.
newer characters
Yeah.
that aren't quite as leveled up as the other ones. You can just stick them in there; they're good to go.
Out of curiosity, did you play your front mission one on the PlayStation or on the DS?
I played the DS one. I played on my computer,
Ah,
obviously, because I didn't have never had a DS. My
right.
my relationship with Front Mission actually starts with Gun Hazard. I
Gun
was
Hazard.
yeah,
I've,
I was
I've,
yeah, I was playing like Assault Suit Lanos and Valken, and I let there of the mech games that I like, that are basically the four kinds. They're the mech sims, your, mech warrior, heavy
Yep.
gear, steel battalion, which is the or example of
Mm.
that thing. That is like pure Kino. You have your armored cores and stuff like that, which is more like third person action kind of games.
Yep.
Yeah, a bit more arcade. There's quite a few Gundam games that are like that. You have your strategy games, which are, Front Mission, the upcoming
Yep.
Curriculum Tactics, stuff like that. And then you got your side scrollers, which is the
Yeah.
Assault Suits games, like, the peak of that. You've got a couple of other ones on Steam. There's Metal Warriors, which is one that LucasArts did for Konami.
Huh. I gotta look that up.
It's
Was that?
actually got it's done in the same style. It's actually pretty cool because all the different mechs you equip have different capabilities, different weapons and special abilities, and there's no health bar. Your mech just gets less and less colorful as it takes damage, starts sparking. And when it's about to
Okay.
die, your weapon gets destroyed. It starts sparking. You have to exit your mech and find a new one. Just, your pilot running around trying to get out, just like in Gun Hazard, before your mech
Right.
explodes and takes you with it.
Right.
So that one's pretty cool.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but basically, I was looking for games like the, Valken and stuff like that because I, was gonna play Lenos 2, which just finally got translated.
Mm.
Finally, and it's actually really good. When I have time, I'll do a proper review of that one. It's also hard as balls, but it's like a side-scrolling armored core. It's incredible.
I really got to assemble my Lenos kit one day.
I gotta buy one day.
Yeah, when I kind of go crazy on the kits when I visit Japan, because yeah, those plum kits, they're not the mainstream, so you only find them in Japan, and like they won't really export those to other countries. Well,
Mm.
other countries won't bother importing those in.
Yeah, you gotta get them from the source.
Yeah,
Yeah. But anyway, that's how I found Gun Hazard, and
right.
it's like, holy crap, they made a full action RPG out of this thing. It's awesome.
Speaking of Steel Battalion you mentioned earlier, did you see
Mhm.
that video of someone who modded their Steel Battalion controller? I think maybe it's not the controller itself, but they did a mod which allows them to play Armored Core 6 on the Steel Battalion controller.
I think I saw that. Yeah. I think also someone figured out a way of doing it with like one of the Mech Warrior games as well. I mean,
Yes, Mech
man, I
Warrior as well.
wish Capcom would reissue that controller again. Like make it like actually PC compatible and
Yep.
just like because I can think of a whole bunch of gamers who would love to have that thing. Even if yet like obviously for Steel Battalion, which you should port to PC or bring back somehow, Capcom. Come on, get on it.
Absolutely. Could you imagine like going through all the trouble to develop that controller just for one game,
Yeah.
and then nothing really came out of it after that?
Yeah, especially since the sequel was on the Kinect. Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, the one that didn't
yeah.
work.
Yeah,
The one where
exactly.
the one where you just stay still and your hand's spazzing out already.
Yeah. Made by FromSoft, of all people.
That was by FromSoft?
That was by FromSoft.
Bloody hell.
I
Yeah.
mean, they can't all be winners.
I mean, to be fair, FromSoft games generally are also an acquired taste. They're definitely an acquired, because we know there are Souls games and the Armored Cores, but they've also released a whole bunch of other games which are often hits or misses themselves, and they're extremely niche. What's that called? What was it called? There was a Super Robot Wars fighting game that did not sell well
Yeah.
either. Oh, that
They
was
also
also by
did a
FromSoft.
Gundam game, Gundam Unicorn, I think.
That's it. Unicorn. That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the greatest game ever made, Metal Wolf Chaos.
Metal Wolf Chaos.
I play that.
Yes.
I'm Canadian, then that thing makes me go America, fuck yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm thinking, why haven't they released a Metal Wolf Chaos action figure?
Oh, that'd be sweet. Especially if they have one where the pod opens up on the back and all the guns come out.
I literally can't imagine a logical way to fit those in, but probably at least have the rings fold out, then you can slot the guns in
Yeah,
separately.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or have like, you open up thing, then you can take the rings separately, plug them in, and then you
Yeah,
have like everything there. Oh man. And a little button you can press on it that says, "How do you like me now?"
that Metal Wolf Chaos cutscenes are just whack. It's like watching a Metal Gear Solid cutscene as well, along that line.
Metal Gear Solid wishes it was that awesome. I'm sorry, Hideo, but as batshit crazy as Metal Gear can be at times, and it can be batshit. There was a giant flaming whale in the last one. Come on, but no matter how weird those things get, nothing can equal to the absolute insanity and comedic chops of just you're the freaking president of the United States in a mech fighting the vice president who is
Who's
taking
also in
over
a
the
Mech.
country, instituting war crime after war crime for the fun of it. He's
And then
gassing New York, unleashing giant spider mechs, and selling the population of the West Coast into, and I quote, white slavery.
and then he gives the White House a makeover. He weaponizes it, turns into a bloody
Turns into the
fortress.
White House. Oh God. And Judy's just, getting off on the destruction the whole time. And then you take it into outer space after blowing up half of Las Vegas. It is just glorious.
And then you surf your way back through the atmosphere.
Yeah, after blowing up a giant missile written Merry Christmas on it. Oh.
They they did they did their research when making that game.
Oh yeah, and yet it never released in North America until years later when Devolver got in touch with them.
The ironic thing was that I was able to get my hands on the Metal Wolf Chaos game, but I never owned an Xbox. So I was like telling myself I got to either buy an Xbox or borrow one from my friend. Then yeah, it finally released on Steam. I was like, oh, problem solved.
There you go. Yeah, I mean that's the same kind of problem with something like Steel Battalion that only
Yeah.
ever released on Xbox also, and only ever released in a version that required a huge ass controller that obviously not everybody was going to buy. And
Yep.
since my family's a PlayStation family, well, I only got to play the game much later after the hype had died down. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it become a collector's item, which means me trying to find one is going to be a real pain in the ass.
Ah, yes. For the longest time, the Metal Wolf Chaos game was fetching a premium even when you visited Japan. So it makes me
Hmm.
wonder, like, since it's been re-released, whether the price has kind of mellowed out.
Yeah. I swear, the only thing worse than the stock market is freaking, used game prices sometimes.
Classic games, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
I've still
is
got
is the
like,
stuff that is always the stuff that has a niche audience.
yeah, or the kind of stuff that, is proven classics. Like I've got the original Silent Hill and
Mm,
for PlayStation, the original PlayStation, Castlevania Symphony of the Night on PlayStation, the original discs and everything.
right.
And yeah, I don't necessarily break them out all the time, but I'm not getting rid of them because if I ever wanted to get them back, I mean, holy shit, can you imagine how much I have to pay for it again? And
Mm.
those ones I managed to score for very relatively cheap, just a random garage sale. So yeah.
The Yeah, the PlayStation, lots of good memories. A lot of being in Singapore, Southeast Asia, a lot of my games at the time were pirated games.
Hmm.
So yeah, you go to one of those like dodgy stores where they have a big old folder, and you just like pick this, and they're like a few bucks. I think
Uh,
that was why the PS1 sold so bloody well.
yeah, the PS1 and the PS2. The PS2 is still to this
Oh
day,
yeah,
I think has the
PS2
very
still had
best.
pirate games. Yeah.
Yeah, it still has the most games made for it. I think for all the consoles except maybe Super Nintendo or something like that.
PS2 was, I think, definitely my peak era of gaming because
Mm.
it was an era when the the graphics were good enough to know almost exactly what they wanted to portray. Like they had high enough graphical texture fidelity
Mm.
to show the details, and the animation got good enough to make appealing
Mm.
cinematic cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like the front mission cutscenes are still some of my favorites out there.
Hmm. Yeah. Although, admittedly, especially for Front Mission 2, the load times were a bit of a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, the loading times on the PS1.
Oh God.
There was the other game that had the loading time issue was the original Gundam Generations, the super deformed the SDG generation.
Mm.
It'd be a 30-second loading time
Oh
for
God.
RX-78 to pull out his beam rifle and shoot a Zaku.
Oof. Another mech game that has that kind of problem was one called Ring of Red. You ever played that one?
Ring of Red, the World War II.
Yeah,
One, yes.
the kind of weird alt history. Japan got the Korea treatment because Russia took over one half and the America took over the other ones because the Japan didn't surrender after the atomic bomb, so they had to do a land invasion. And also, oh yeah, Germany invented mechs for, so that's the thing.
Yeah, I remember watching the videos, and yeah, that game was slow. And everything was slow.
It's the same kind of thing that
It
happened with some of the Final Fantasy games where the special attacks are just take forever to get done. Because I
yes.
think it came from the fact that, as you say, they finally had the processing power to do these kind of great visuals and stuff like that. So they really wanted to show them off. It says that they didn't think of, oh yeah, this has got to tank the pacing of your game for minutes on end as you're waiting for these things to resolve, and there's no skip button.
But at the very least, Final Fantasy being a high a pre one of those high-end gaming companies, they make those animations appealing. Ring of Red
Yeah,
was sluggish.
yeah,
At
that was
least
a problem.
at least like the Final Fantasy GF summons could be something you would look forward to because of how insane they look for their time.
You look forward to it the first 5, 6 times. After
Yeah.
that, you kind of wishing for the fast forward button every now and then.
Also, they didn't have a skip
Yeah,
animation option.
yeah.
The same things like it's like when you play Super Robot Wars,
Mhm.
you the first few half an hour you're excitedly looking at the animations, and then they do like skip. Oh, new animation, let's watch this. Then
Yeah,
you watch it a few times and then you skip again.
yeah. It's just one of those things that happens when you have something that repeats over and over again that's not, requiring your direct input or something like that. Eventually, well, you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times, you're gonna start to wondering what the hell you can do to speed things up a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, luckily you don't have to worry about that with Eisenfront because there are no cutscenes. It's straight to gameplay.
Oh yeah.
So so when you're creating your own, so talk me through this. Let's say you've come up with a new design for a mech for
Yep.
your game and stuff like that. How does the process go from coming up with just the idea in your head to having the actual physical item in your hands?
Okay, so I'm also I've always been more of a trained illustrator more than 3D modeler.
Yeah,
So
I've seen on your
basically,
Twitter you've been putting out some lots and lots of concept art and stuff like that. It looks really good.
yes. So they would start off with a sketch like this first,
Hmm.
and then depending on how lazy I am, I would usually do the front, side, and back sketches, and then
Hmm.
use a reference for that. Or sometimes I would just kind of wing it and look at this and and just model along the way, improvise. Then start with the sketches, 3D model. Then from then on, it's like the trial and error printing. I'd start with an FDM print just to make sure everything fits, make sure the scale the scale lines up with the existing models of what I'm
Hmm.
intending to make, and then tweak things here and there. Once I'm satisfied with the scale, I move on to the resin print, do a test fit, test posing, and all that. Then proceed with the molding and casting.
Yeah. And that's how you end up with these babies. So when it comes to these you mentioned that like it's a combination of resin and plastic parts. Do you have any kind of like preferences in terms of what goes where in terms of like what materials you use for your manufacturing process?
Okay, for those plastic parts in that kit, they are actually from the starter box which I have.
Mhm.
The starter box, I outsourced them to Vietnam to be produced. So they produce a large amount of those particular kits, so I don't have to cast them.
Yeah.
In terms of my newer models, they are all almost always resin cast.
Mhm.
However, now that I have access to a 3D resin printer, if I find a certain piece I designed is giving me trouble casting, I can just proceed to 3D print X amount of those pieces, and it'll just be a bit of a fusion kit mixture of resin and plastic and resin cast and resin printed parts.
Nice. Yeah. And one thing I've noticed also is that well, you have also like you provided a bunch of these little guys, these tiny little black
The
little plastic
joints.
the joints here, extra ones, which is a nice touch. Always handy to having just in case.
The joints are the part which I'm always struggling with, so I try to include spares in case they break off, or even in my site I give the free STL. So if you actually want a bunch of 3mm joints, you could download them for free on my site, and they are 3mm, so you can use them on other kits as well. The
Mm.
Gunplas and Kotobukiya kits if you
Yeah,
so desire.
joints are always something that has problems. Like sometimes you'll assemble a kit and something like you just like poke it a little bit and an arm will fall off.
That happened with my one of my Armored Core model kits. The quad legs, I was trying to see how they engineered the joints, but because I had it on my shelf for so long, the plastic parts, they sort of like almost like a bit stick to one another, so the legs snapped right off.
Mm, damn. Yeah, that's always the thing with these kinds of model kits. They're generally pretty good, especially the higher quality or the more expensive higher quality ones. But sometimes you get like a lemon here or there that just it didn't print out the right way or not smoothly enough, and well,
Yep.
you gotta do a little bit
That's
of fixing up.
that's usually the case for Kotobukiya kits, especially the older Kotobukiya kits, which were
Mhm.
extremely finicky. Like the balancing can be awful, the joints will not be strong enough. So you can have a model with like a big old arm, and then the ball joint is extremely weak. So no matter how you put it, it's just gonna slowly like bend itself down.
That sucks. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking here on your website. You've got the STL file downloads under the free section now, as well as the rule book for the game Eisenfront. Those are the core
Yep.
rules. That's the entire rule set, or are there additional rules in the starter kit?
I'm working on a version 2 of the rule book, which I'm hoping will clarify clarify certain parts of which I trouble writing down in the first version, and it's also going to be a free download, just like the one in there. I'm going to just replace it
Yeah.
and streamline weapon rules. So, for example, in the original rule book, there was a list of weapon types like submachine gun, sniper rifles, and whatnot. Then under each of them, I put a special rule associated with them. I've kind of decided to take away like the segmentation of that and just put a whole list of weapon rules in a few pages, because there's going to be a lot of weapons in Eisenfront. Like uh, a shotgun, while it operates like a shotgun, it may have a rapid fire capability.
Mhm.
So a skill card, which you saw in the rule book, could actually be used, which is usually used for machine guns, can also be applied to the shotgun as an example. So I've
Yeah.
decided to just kind of streamline everything.
Yeah. Anything with a rate, extended rate of fire that allows it for multiple shots in the same
Yep.
attack.
Or like a sniper rifle is usually have a rule where if you remain stationary, it has a slight accuracy bonus.
Mhm.
And then a cannon, for example, with a higher caliber round has a concussive skill. There are going to be weapons out there which combines both concussive and this accuracy bonus.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just going to have a whole lot of different weapon options that will allow you to toy
Yeah.
around with loadouts.
Like I saw, like as certain weapons, like there's a particular pile bunker kind of style
Yep,
weapon that actually acts as a shield, as a buckler shield as well because of the size of it. That
yep.
one's on like one of the what was it called? Let me see here. Got the
The weapon packs.
yeah. Well, no, actually, it was on one of the mechs, as I recall. Ah, okay, the drive stake. Yeah, the drive
Yes,
stake.
on the Firebull, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yep,
Weight 10. Here's a question for you. The way that the system here works is that your torso provides the power that you need to run your mech, and then
yep,
everything has an associated weight stat.
yep,
So you have to, balance the weight of the limbs and equipment that you're bringing to the fight with the power available, which can enhance using backpacks that act as
yep.
extra generators. In terms of that, and in terms of the point cost for purchasing all these things, how do you, fine tune the balancing for this, which is often something that a lot of people, well, obviously bitch about, but it's one of the harder things I think to do when it comes to these kinds of systems for war games.
This is something okay. This is something I'm still not entirely sure whether my method is working, but basically, I've got like some kind of algebraic style formula where, where X amount of armor of HP equals to X amount of points. Then there's a weight. Then there's a weight. So like if you have 13 hit points, then you have a 13 weight. It will cost you 13 points. But if you increase the weight, you reduce it by one point. Then with the with like the what do you call it? Like weapons, they are modifiers. So like rate of fire, it becomes you have like how in algebra you've got like a plus b bracket multiply by this or divide along that line. I always have this spreadsheet on me which I'm referring to, and sometimes I get lost looking at it.
Trust me, I've known a couple of people working in the RPG and wargame industries. Spreadsheets are your friend in these cases. Anything that requires like for vehicle or weapon design, spreadsheets are going to be necessary regardless of your attempts. There's just no way around it.
Yep. So basically, like I have this like little like formula where rate of fire and damage multiplied by whatever then equals to this, and then I will do it with a bunch of weapons and see their final points and see whether it tallies up. Like this weapon is supposed to be stronger than the others, but why is it almost the same points cost? Then I'll have to like rework things here and there. I don't always 100% follow it, but it's a starting point to get me to the final points cost, and then I may tweak them accordingly.
Yeah, because you end up with sometimes with situations where on paper something has to have a certain value, but then you see how it works in play and the way your players synergize it with different strategies, and suddenly something that you undervalued point wise becomes far more powerful, or sometimes a complete trap options depending on whether or not it seems to work in play versus on paper.
This is exactly like in third, fourth edition of Warhammer when like what you have a Space Marine tactical squad, and if you give it heavy weapon, a single heavy weapon like a las cannon, a missile launcher, like a missile launcher was 10 points, a las cannon was 15 points for the tactical squad. But when you bought a Devastator squad, a specialist heavy weapon squad, a missile launcher was 25 points and a las cannon was 35 points instead. So like it became like more expensive to purchase the heavy weapons for the Devastator squads than for the tactical squads. So that's just an example of how like the same weapon applied to two somewhat different units have a very different very different points cost.
Yeah. I'm looking at the free STL files. I'm seeing something very familiar from Mission 3.
Yes.
The biofueled war mech.
Yeah. Yeah, you can download that for free and create your own Balia family army.
Oh man, imagine deploying a whole army of these things. Oh,
you do fight a squad of them in Front Mission 3, yeah. So go ham with those.
Nice.
I did I didn't upload it, but I did a turret, those AWS, what they call the Gatling turrets they put on destroyers to protect them from missiles.
The anti-air kind of
I did one of those and just mounted it on the back of that Vanza.
Oh my! You turn you turn it into a technical with legs. That is awesome. I love that. Oh god! The only way you can make that even more like freaking ghetto mech is to just have some guy on the back with a big ass machine gun, just like going to.
Yeah, could do that. Yeah. Like basically the equivalent of the Toyota gun trucks.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, you could totally see someone doing that, just taking a bunch of smashed up mechs and just putting something kind of Frankenstein monster together. I mean, that's the Franken mech is a kind of thing in Battletech. It might as well be a universally applied principle. Yeah, and technically you can do that, considering that you can just like pop off one of the arms on this thing if it gets destroyed.
Yep.
Attach an arm from another mech that you just salvaged from the battle, and there you go. I mean, it's provided, of course, that you can power it with the equipment that you have on hand.
And of course, the thing is that if you're a hobbyist and don't care about the game, you literally can just kind of go ham with the customizations. If you want to just make a machine look the way you want,
Hmm.
want it, you absolutely can. Nothing stopping you from going crazy with the parts.
Yeah, like I've got these ones here, like this little chain axe thing. You can just pop
Yep.
that here right into the hand. I do like the fact that it's got a, like the micro pile bunker here for those who
Yeah.
can't see like that, which is
Yep.
literally the stats on this thing, which come in these nice cards, which is always handy for the gaming public here. The auxiliary micro pike, melee range, AP1, weight 3, so easy to use. Good crit rate and compact. Arms equipped with this can still be used to support double-handed weapons without penalty. So you have a lot of options in there. Looking over like everything on your website for the cards that were available, for
Mm.
view there. There's a lot of different options that you have. Like sometimes you have a big ass shield, but you also have like tiny bucklers instead that just add HP instead of acting as a full defense kind of
Yep.
thing. All the different
Yep.
arms with different capabilities that fit with the mech they're designed for. Like I think it was called the Hornet, which is a sniper mech, which
Yep.
has an accuracy bonus for the art for those particular arms. There's
Yep.
also one like the Cyclops, which has these really powerful, a secondary motion system for the dash move.
Yep.
And literally, it shows it kind of like folding down onto its the back of his leg, so it can just like trundle along, which is pretty cool. I
Yep.
like that.
And you can see from the stats, like that's really the main feature of the Cyclops, because otherwise it's a rather unimpressive machine
Mm,
stats wise. It's low armor. It's just kind of fast. But
mm.
I'm trying to show like a technological progression in certain models. So like they've got early gen models to late third gen, fourth gen. Then the newer ones will begin to start having armored core style features to it, like is
Nice.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you look at World War II and you look at the early tanks, the Panzer one, two, and threes,
Mhm.
and it escalates to Panzer fours, fives, and then Tiger tanks. The
Yeah, there's no comparison.
technological progression, yeah,
Yeah, you put one
things like
against
that.
of one of the first against one of the latter, and
Yeah,
you're in for a bit of a curb stomp at that point if it's just, one-on-one white room kind of fight there.
and I'm also trying to do what Mission does and like have corporations behind these machines and
Yes.
write little like biographies of these machines and like they were designed for. Maybe it was designed to counter a specific machine, operational history, then like
Mm,
potent like when this first released, this particular model had this issue, but when it reached the lines, the infield engineers did some jury rigging, and then it became a much better machine
that's stuff I
after that because
love
they
for any kind of
yeah
mech centered setting like that.
where like the developers put in a bunch of features that was not necessary and just only acted as a hindrance, as just as an
Mm,
example. In fact,
yeah.
like the British bullpup rifle LA something, it was a piece of crap, I believe, upon first release, as cool as it looked.
Mm,
So all these very interesting stories behind them.
yeah. I'm looking here at the descriptions that you have here in the back of the manual. You got the KH-01 Doberman, which is the one I've got here, quite possibly the most successful line of war mechs ever produced. The fact that its first generation model was still standing tall in a predominantly Generation 3 market is a testament to its staying power. I mean, yeah, it's always good to have like in heavy gear you have the Hunter mech. In
Hmm.
BattleTech you have stuff like the kinds of mechs that you keep coming back to, like the Hunchback and stuff like that, or
Yeah.
Marauder and things like that. And here here's your default. I mean, literally, this guy is on the cover of the rule book, so he's kind of like your mascot in many ways.
The Doberman, actually, there's two references to popular stories. Like Doberman is basically like my little homage to the Husky from Front Mission.
Hmm.
So so in Eisenfront, the one of the manufacturers makes a line called Kampfhund the Warhounds. And instead of Germany having like tigers, pandas named after big cat, these are going to be named after big dogs, Mastiff, Doberman, and
Nice.
yeah, other big dogs and whatnot.
Yeah, you got the
And
Mastiff, which has a huge ass gun to it, which what is that thing can normally come with? Like Delpher class bazooka is the default weapon on that thing. So yeah, definitely Germany goes for the big guns in this case.
so yeah, the Doberman's basically like the
Mm,
Zaku in the sense where like throughout the entire the universal century, like you keep on seeing Zakus everywhere. So it's like it's got this staying power to it.
Yeah.
It's outclassed often, but it still does its job when it needs to.
Yeah, exactly. It's the kind of thing that's, easy to mass produce. Everybody's
Yep.
got parts for it. It falls into your discretionary budget with no problems. You can just crank them out and just stick a new body into them and just send them out to the battlefield.
Yep. And like the Doberman, because of the modularity of Mechs, you can put like a powerful power pack on it, and the Doberman can operate heavy weapons. It can become a launcher, close combat specialist, regardless of
Yeah.
what you need it to.
Like for instance, I got this thing here, the WM Battle Pack, which has a little bit
Yep.
less power, but comes with a shoulder-mounted weapon hard point for this
Yep.
missile launcher. So you can just like take this bad boy here, take off his normal backpack, put this thing here, and voila, just have it going in there whenever you're ready, and then deploy missile. This is so cool.
Backpacks are always fun to work on. The Bull Allen, which has so many, that one model has over 50 parts in it. The backpack is supposed to be able to deploy repair drones.
Yes. That's actually pretty cool, having be able to have, depending on the size of your squad, having different support abilities, like for instance, like something that's in later front missions, like radar, ECM generators, ECCM generators to counter that, all these kinds of things. So like you equip a backpack, one of your mechs with a backpack with a radar on it, and all of a sudden the range on all your lock-on based missile weapons becomes all throughout the entire table. So you can just like rain death on your enemies from afar like that.
Yep.
And then of course the enemy
The
has an ECM jammer version, so of course that counters that. Or you could even have like a command version with a satellite uplink so they can call in fire
yes,
support.
the Durandal, the one that can call in the airstrike for the Durandal ship. That's right, the airplane.
Nice. Yeah, and of course you do more than just mechs. You've got gunships, various vehicles as well, tanks and stuff like that. You've got this cool little quad-based thing called the Gecko, which is a omnidirectional armored vehicle with
Yep. Oh, I
four
got
little
one right here.
legs with tread wheels on them. That thing, yeah. And the cool thing is that the legs can actually move around
Oh
independently.
yeah, they are like a little spider, so they can actually kind of like elevate itself
Nice.
accordingly. If it needs to take cover behind like a piece of terrain, a wall, whatnot, it can sort of like elevate itself up accordingly.
Yeah, just go hull down and just poke out the turret and bang.
This one was fun. A number of my customer bases who buy my models are okay. There are few different customers who buy my models. One is obviously just hobbyists who want to paint the models. Others who
Yeah.
are interested in playing the game. They buy the starter box and they buy a few models after that. And others is just they're playing an existing 15 war game, a sci-fi one, maybe was it called like Stargrave or something like that? Well, there's a bunch of them out there, and there aren't really any Mech models, so just kind of buy the model for that. For a period, a bunch of my models were being used for the game Gamma Wolves, which is have you heard of that one, Gamma Wolves?
No, afraid I hadn't.
It's just a rule book on how to make your own Mech and agnostic style of wargaming. So like buy this rule book and how to make the Mech and buy whatever you want. Buy Gunpla, buy whatnot. So people are buying 30-minute mission kits. People are buying my Eisenfront kits to put together and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately when it comes to war games as such, if you're using one that's just like, measure distances with a little, tape measure and stuff like that, roll some dice, all you really need, like you can just go to any kind of like toy store, grab a big bucket of toy soldiers.
Exactly.
Like they did back in the day when, H.G. Wells was doing little wars back in
Little
the day.
Wars, yeah.
Yeah. Starting this whole thing really. And you're doing the free Kriegsspiel thing that German officers would do to train their troops and train their officers in strategy. And all you really need is a consistent rule set and a bunch of miniatures of a consistent size for for the training that you're using. And basically anybody can just, go from there. It's just a question of finding an aesthetic that, and a set of rules and an aesthetic that pleases you.
Yeah, in fact, like you could, but I'm not very sure about. Actually, you've got dollar stores in Canada, so yeah.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know that some people have went to like Dollar Trees and or Rosses in America, and they're like these little like bootleg armored core robots, and yeah, some people just bought them, give them a fresh paint job, and use them in war games.
Yeah. I mean, there's really, unless you really need to go for an official, I mean, let's face it, some of the first commercial war games that I ever encountered, they didn't even have miniatures. They're just little cardboard chits on a little map.
Yeah, well, like at one point the BattleTech starter box was just a bunch of cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, standees. I mean, I think they should honestly, they still have those in their, starter boxes along with a couple of miniatures. I think
Yeah, that's right.
really, I know that these people really want to sell plastic. I understand that. And they want
I
that
mean, hey,
plastic to
so do
bring them a
I.
shit ton of money. But making available a set where it's just the cardboard standees, like good, decent cardboard that's not going to break or spindle you quickly, just making those available to people would be a great way to get more people into the hobby and, into their games without having them having to, spend an arm and a leg trying to get a full army's worth of miniatures.
And that's actually something which I'm still kind of working on for Eisenfront, and which is the all the data cards that you see with the Mechs. I'm
Mm,
intending to actually make them free to down. Yeah, I'm intending to make these free to download
mm.
along with the skill cards
Yeah.
that comes in the starter box, so that if you just want to try the game with a bunch of other gunpla toys or whatnot, you can just download the cards, the rules, and just give it a try.
Yeah. Well, one thing that'd be cool about those skill cards is because it's got your artwork on each one of them, your illustrations. So that's
Ah,
also
yes.
an added cool factor right there. Because the ones I've seen on your socials and here in the rule book here are actually really cool looking. That's plus the fact that it's all you makes it a unified art style, which is also an added bonus for these kinds of things.
All right, that's right.
Yeah. So in
I mean,
terms of yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like after all, like like illustration is still one of my biggest passions in the end. So everything I incorporate has to like at least have a cool art to go with it. I
Yeah.
mean, 40K. What another thing that got me into 40K were the artists Dave Gallagher, Adrian Smith, Karl Kopinski, absolute legends in the tabletop art sphere.
Yeah. I mean definitely it has their own that particular, especially depending on the area, like 80s Warhammer, it's
Yep.
really like Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer 40K, regardless. The art style of those things is like nothing else out there, really. That kind of
Yeah.
spiky, punk, almost looking art, especially for like
Everyone
runners
had a
for the
mohawk.
chaos. Yeah, everybody had a mohawk. Everybody was covered in scars and cybernetics, and everything would look absolutely. It was very British. It's that very
Yes.
British punk kind of
Yep. Even
aesthetic to it.
the elder had mohawk, and they're supposed to be the elegant ones.
Well, it was a very elegant mohawk, let's say, Sax.
Fair enough.
Uh, I think one of the added bonuses for these cards also is the way that you can just like put them in front of you and actually like yeah, you put your main card for your torso there, and then you have
Yep.
your arms on either side, like so. And then you have
Yes.
your legs down here, you put your backpack up there, and you have your weapons associated with each one on there. So you can actually essentially have your own character sheet for your mechs built up, custom built right in front of you. And it makes it very
Mhm.
easy to see exactly what you have. And then you can just like, mark down the damage to any particular. And if something gets destroyed, just take the card, toss it. There you go. You know
It
exactly
certainly
how it went.
it certainly pays to invest in a nine pocket card sleeve,
Mhm.
because they will have almost exactly the right amount of pockets for the cards. A center for the torso, left and arm next to it, and the backpack behind, and the shoulder weapons on the top
Yeah,
left.
on the sides. Yeah.
Then if you flip it over to the other side, you could have the pilot with their pilot skills behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, for them, you have also, the rules for pilots, for their pilot skills, skill points, action points, determined by their level of veterancy. Have you thought about doing something like campaign rules with kind of like
Yes,
yes, for
yes, like
developing your
how
characters as you go along?
like basically like it's kind of like if you um if you destroy an enemy mod if you destroy an enemy model, like you destroy the torso, but the arms and legs still have got hit points on it, you can salvage those arms and legs and either sell them or equip them out. Then like there's a repair cost to them accordingly.
Mhm.
If your pilot destroys an enemy model, you get X amount of experience points. Then they can purchase skill cards, or they can pump in points to increase their veterancy, their action points limits, and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's always it's always useful because when you think about it, like RPG is obviously descended from war games.
Yeah.
And in the case of like, something like this, especially given the fact that you're dealing with generally a small number of models, and each one has its own individual pilot, its own individual character, you're gonna have people who are very much going to want to see like, what can I do when I'm not in my mech? When
Mm.
have scenarios like that. Incidentally, and one of the things that a lot of people look for in mech stuff, and you have done so already with the different vehicles also. Do you plan on doing like a very much focus on kind of combined arms kind of thing with also infantry and stuff like that?
Okay, interestingly, I do have infantry models I've made, but I have not written rules for infantry. I'm not very sure how I'll integrate that. I think it's primarily either for infantry on infantry combat, or
Mm.
infantry will excel in capturing objectives.
Hmm.
They'll be better at contesting objectives, and they'll be difficult to engage mechs, but sorry, mechs will have difficulty engaging them
Yeah,
because they're so small. But infantry can only even with their anti-tank weapons, can only do X amount of damage to mechs, so they're not hard hitters in a
yeah.
sense. Um, as for the combined arms like the helicopters and tanks, I also do intend to expand on that. Like, for example, tanks tanks may have crews, so like there'll be, just to simplify, a pilot and a gunner. So the pilot can take, I mean, the driver can take more skill cards. The gunner take dedicated gunnery skill cards,
Mm.
which naturally frees up more skill points to distribute between the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. The driver
And
slash commander can take
yeah,
certain skill cards to help him for maneuverability and such, and for evasion, and the gunner takes the
yeah,
ones that blow shit up.
yeah, and if they even could be specialized skill cards for specific models, like skill cards that are dedicated for helicopter gunships, or skill cards that are for ground vehicles.
Hmm.
Because steering wheel is a bunch more different
Yeah,
than joysticks.
they're very true. Plus, you have potential for like drone warfare, different unmanned vehicles as well. Is always
Yep.
a thing. That's one of the thing with these kinds of games. There's always something else you can add on to it, and so the question is just how complex and
Yes.
far-ranging do you want your rules to be, I
You
suppose.
you want, so the idea of for those is that there will be separate supplements, but they are not compulsory. The
Mhm.
tricky thing, and I think even GW has had a problem, which is a information bloat.
Yeah,
When they first released 8th edition several years back, everything was simple, a simple pamphlet to play, but then like they added more and more books, more and more expansions. It just became overwhelming, and it kind of became what it was from the just like the previous.
yeah.
There was too many things to absorb.
That's often what happens. Yeah, BattleTech got the same thing. If you try playing like the Total Warfare book from the start, which concludes everything from like
Oh boy.
strategic level orbital bombardments down to the regular like mech combat, you're gonna like, I need an adult and a calculator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is why, something like Alpha Strike exists also in order to, give people who just want to get in and out, have a quick, match between a couple of mechs and just, not have to worry too much about that. That's one of the reasons why having those kinds of simpler versions, or at least having the complex stuff be entirely optional, is probably your best bet at that point.
Yep. And even playing test games sometimes, because of the activation method, it can be a bit like you can lose track of things. You like, oh shit, did I activate this guy already?
Mhm.
Have I used this model skills this model skills yet. So those are sort of the things which I'm trying to streamline,
Yeah.
because everything on a PC game is laid out for you in code. But when you have
Yeah.
to remember things with your mind, you can lose track of
Yeah.
all the information.
I suppose that's one of the usefulness of having those, like you said, those 9 pocket binder things. You can just flip the
Yep.
page and that mech is done onto this one.
Yep.
So it's easier to keep track in that regard.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have you thought of, speaking, going back to the front mission stuff, have you thought about doing any of those like big, mobile weapon style, vehicles too,
Yes,
to go along with these things?
I have actually. I've done a few concepts for super heavies, for example, which are significantly larger war mechs. I've got
Yeah.
concept art for
Something like that, this size, maybe. Just a real,
I
maybe
would
not
say
that
maybe
big, but
three quarter the size of that for the time being. Yeah. I've got a concept art for okay, they may not be in-game models, but they could be used as mission objectives.
Mm,
But like a mobile basis, like a carrier that can carry maybe two mechs in it, and it's got its own like self-sustaining weapons bay and whatnot. Basically
yeah,
enough to carry a small strike team and stuff like
yeah,
that. The largest model which I've got planned right now, which I've showed you the photo the other day,
yeah.
is the transport helicopter.
Which
This
is always a classic.
which is this one right here. Hang on, let me just.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, the double bladed chopper. That is, and the legs come out
The,
too.
leg, the
Oh,
legs
that is
fold out.
great.
There are hard points on the underside. So not only is it a transport, it's actually has got these hard points to modify into like a gunship mode where it's got either
Oh,
a two Gatling guns underneath,
oh, daddy like.
cluster bombs,
Oh, I love it. Nice.
or let's see, or just like large
Missile
missile
pods,
rack.
yeah. Oh, that is
Yeah.
great. That's
The
always
part which
that's one of the advantages literally of this, system you've come up with is just the modularity. You can have like all these different units, just even going down to the simple vehicle, you have what's it called? It is a Badger, like it's this like a armored transport vehicle. And you can
Yeah, just
have
like a recon vehicle,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like a recon Jeep, armored Jeep or something like that. And this
Hmm.
you have multiple versions. You got the regular one, mortar, radar, and you've got one with a giant ass coil gun on it as well, which,
Oh yeah.
ouch.
It's just to give it that little extra sting that
Yeah,
makes it like that little bit more. It's kind of like when the British put the 75 pounder, wait, was it 75 pounder, the big gun on the Sherman and made into a Sherman Firefly as a regular Sherman, but it's got this really big cannon that take out tiger tanks at a
yeah,
distance.
because fuck that crap in particular. I can say that my mother's German.
But yeah, and yeah, oh, vehicles will have its own set of skills maybe in the future, like which I like to expand upon. I still haven't really figured out exactly how, but I also don't want to make it too
Yeah,
complicated. So
yeah.
like,
It's very much a question of keeping things as much in line with each other as possible. So like the same kind of systems that you can use for mechs for skill, mech pilots for skills, vehicle pilots would probably use something similar just so it's easier to wrap your head around when you're switching to a different kind of,
yeah,
pilot.
yeah,
Yeah. And plus you probably don't want to have like, okay, I need a whole different set of stats for this pilot when I switch him to another vehicle because it's a different kind of control scheme. Nah, just, pilot skill, you're good to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. Yeah, it's just that
Yeah.
the pilot is just it's it's just a representation of a crew. And if you assign it to his vehicle, it's just assume that he knows how to operate this machine. Then buying the cards will just determine his proficiency with said machine.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, you have, given different, stat profiles, like, a trooper having, higher pilot skill and also more skill points that you can use to buy skill cards, which,
Mhm.
then you can use to really, it's not like a full RPG system, but you definitely can
Mhm.
personalize your characters and give them some character, as it were, depending on the kinds of skills that you select for skill cards that you select for them. Like,
Mm.
does this one tend to be more of a sniper where it's like, one shot, one kill and just, do massive damage with single
Yep.
shot weapons? Or is this some kind of berserk nut job who just enjoys spraying everything in his path,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that people has told me that sometimes they have a bit of trouble keeping track of is the action points.
Mm.
Like when you move, you consume 2 action points depending on how far you go. Then you have to keep on recording things down, which is why I kind of recommend getting like one of those whiteboard markers to record your stuff down onto the plastic sleeve so you can just kind of
Yeah.
rub and rewrite.
Yeah. Easy that way.
Hmm. So like I've noticed something when I do game demos in events is that obviously anybody who is not familiar with playing tabletop war games or board games, they have trouble picking up the rules. But anybody who is actually who have played other games before tend to pick them up really quickly.
Yeah. That's often the
So
case I've found.
so the thing I'm trying to focus on right now is making sure the rules which I write onto the rule book is can be deciphered easily.
Yeah.
And that's always a tricky thing because I'm not really much of a writer, which I'm always worried where people buy the rule books and when they play the game they may play it wrong. They may do a review and goes like, oh
Oh
no,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I've talked to enough
they
people who do RPGs to know that one, technical writing and game design are related, but they are not the same skill set. So
yeah.
sometimes, there's a bit of a learning curve for a lot of people. And two, people are going to play your game wrong. I have seen this over and over and over, no matter how clearly you write, no matter how many examples you give, someone is going to play the game wrong, if only because they forgot what the rule was and they don't want to bother looking at the rule book and while they're playing, so they just make some shit up and then just, forget that they made it up later on.
So, so one thing that friends have recommended to me, which I think is a good idea if I do get onto it eventually, is to actually do YouTube videos on
Mhm.
how to play the game, breaking down movement, shooting, breaking down pilot
Yeah,
skills, or like when you do a skill stacking, so that there's literally someone talking to you with visual references on how to play
yeah.
the game.
And
And
also it's
I'm
a
it,
great way of
and
showing off your miniatures, in play
yeah.
as they were actually, in scale with everything, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm looking here at the starter set for Eisenfront. Comes with 4 mechs, a bunch of weapons, all these skill cards and equipment cards that you need, the rules, and also these little, I think, little boxes. I think those are for small buildings or cover and stuff like that that you can also place on the map.
Yeah, the boxes where the models up where I put the models in, and yeah, so you flip them over, there can be little buildings for you to get straight to playing. The only thing you'll need is a measuring tape.
Yeah. Or like one of those, like, you go to fabric stores and stuff like that. They often sell, it's not so much a measuring tape so much as a rope with the little
Yeah,
demarcations, which I
yeah,
find makes it's very useful for if you're having a mech that's moving not necessarily in a straight line, so it makes it a lot
yes.
easier to see, just how much distance goes for that, which is always useful, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you have, like, just out of curiosity, which one do you think is your favorite mech that you've designed so far?
My favorite mech that I designed so far, let's see. I would say I have a soft spot for the Bull Allen.
The Bull Allen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
What
is
is that?
the big chunky one. Is it on the site? Or
Yeah,
did
I
I?
got it right here. The CE Bull Allen.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's a chunky boy right there. Comes, yeah, it's a chunky boy. It's got an evasion penalty, so cumbersome already. Penalty
That's the one
accuracy
of
for
the
ranged weapons, and it comes with a big ass repair kit, repair unit for a backpack, combat shield, and a
so
shot pistol.
so yeah, the Bull Allen is actually And these robots are going to have like countries of origin. The Bull Allen's meant to be an Australian mech, and it was named after Bull Leslie Allen, the Australian medic who fought in World War II, who ran
Nice.
to and fro gunfire to bring back wounded soldiers.
Cool. That's some pedigree right there. It makes sense, given the fact that repair unit and a big ass combat shotgun, combat shield. Yeah, this thing's definitely A, highly defensible, and two, designed to act as repair and support for other mechs. So yeah, making it named after a hero medic is perfect.
Guess another model which I'm kind of fond of is this one right here, which is the Silver Hawk, because
Silverhawk.
it incorporates a lot of my newer design philosophies where the shoulders now have got joints in here, so it can actually lift up its arm sideways.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, this particular joint here needs to be replaced. Also, the hands are actually a ball joint, so it can swivel around.
Yeah, nice.
So is the head, which can tilt up and down rather than just be on a stick, a little stick that just turns around. So this is an example of the newer models that incorporates more parts, more components. So rather than having four joints on the elbows and knees, it's now got an extra one on the shoulder as well. So more parts, more pieces to cast, but I would say a generally more fun model to play with.
And definitely you get able to pose in different ways. Like this one is designated basically as a sniper mech. It's got increased maximum range for single shot or semi-auto weapons by 3 inches, kind of thanks to that enhanced optics that it has on its main torso there, plus accuracy bonus on the arms and stuff like that. That's also something I like. You have a degree of setting information baked into the mechanics like this. Like certain mechs are designed for certain purposes and their stats reflect that. And also, as you say, like the Germans are naming their the German company that's designing the original war mech and going forward are naming theirs after big dogs. The Australians are naming after like a hero medic from World War II. Do you have already like a great deal of the background and setting information already thought out for this? And if so, like, do you plan on like giving it out all at once or like in bits and pieces as time goes on?
I'm thinking of putting those information in maybe a source book in the future. The rulebook or free, but maybe the source book is something I could sell at conventions for a bit of extra income. But also, I would like to put those information for free for free elsewhere.
Yeah.
In fact, like here we go. Here we have the Front Mission World Historia book that has got information on
dear
all the
sweet mother of Crom. I wish I had that.
on characters and whatnot. So maybe not as extensive as this, but something along this line that will allow that just basically brings the people into the world.
Square Enix, if you're watching this video, and I know you're watching, translate that shit immediately and put it in my veins. The fact that
we'll give you money.
Yes, I will give you money. Real money. Just give it to me. The fact that there's so much front mission stuff out there that has never reached, any shores outside of, Japan is just insane.
Yeah, the fact that the only front mission games that were translated in English for the longest time was Front Mission 3 and 4. 1 and 2 did not get the treatment until
1 got it for the DS version.
Yes.
And then you had, like you say, 3 and 4. 5 didn't get translated. And then we get Front Mission Evolved and Left Alive.
Yeah, Left Alive.
Which makes Front Mission Evolved look like one of the greatest games ever made. Oh, God. Left Alive is such a... I can see where they were going, and it looks great. I love the look of that game. And the concept of being in this mech US setting and being just one on the ground in the middle of a war zone, trying to survive a city under siege, and you have these towering giant behemoths trundling along with huge autocannons just waiting to catch you in the crossfire is
What
tense as hell and just plays like shit.
what actually hurts is that there were there were developers who were on Armored Core before working on Left Alive, and they said that the logical thing to do was to make a survival game like Last of Us in a Mech in an IP that's predominantly known for its Mech aesthetics,
Yeah.
and it just became you mostly trying to craft stuff and distract and force.
The main problem is that they made your characters severely underpowered and then added a leveling system so you could, gain experience and level your character up and increase your capabilities. That was only accessible in New Game Plus. You had to beat the game in order to be able to level up your character, in order to play it again to try and get the good ending. That is a stupid idea.
And then you've got that little AI voice that keeps on saying the
Caution,
enemy
the
is
enemy
nearby.
is approaching.
Yes, that's it. Over and over. It's more annoying. It's more annoying than Navi from Legend of Zelda.
Oh, well, let's not go that far. Okay, let's not exaggerate.
Well, you do hear that almost every few seconds. So
Yeah, true. Uh,
I mean, like, I bought Left Alive because there was a sale of it on the US Square Enix store, and I wanted to get the limited edition figurine. I haven't.
mm,
I I just watch videos of someone playing the game, and I just know that I'm not gonna have a good time when I boot that thing up. So
uh,
I just had more fun with the robot then.
yeah, they patched it, a couple of years ago to give it like an extra easy mode where you can actually inflict headshots on enemies. So,
Huh.
yay. So there's that at least. Like I can understand, like the soldiers are dressed, all the enemy soldiers are dressed in these powered exoskeletons where they can literally jump on top of a bus from the ground
Yep.
in one leap, which is I kind of dig that. I like the idea of having, you on the ground dealing with this technologically superior enemy who's far
Mhm.
better equipped and stuff like that. So you do have to scrounge for supplies and make your own weapons and stuff like that. It just again plays like shit. Uh, yeah. I mean, also in comparison, like when I played, Front Mission Evolved, and I don't hate that game. It's basically Armored Core Light. And
Eh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The gameplay was serviceable. The stories and characters were not memorable.
I like the story and characters.
Nah,
It's not, I understand it ain't Shakespeare. I'm perfectly aware of that.
yeah.
But it does feel like a Western take on a mech anime. You have your hot-blooded main character who's always, trying ready to get revenge for
Um,
his dad.
I mean, that's pretty much exactly what it was. It was developed by a Western studio, and
Yeah, Double
I'm
Helix.
not too sure how much there is in it, but I heard what the Western concept artists wanted to redesign some of the Vandas to have more organic silhouettes to it, and I think like the hit developers were like, please don't do that. Could try imagine trying to imagine Front Mission where some guy tried to design it like Michael Bay Transformers.
Oh no, that would be bad. That would be very, very bad. Yeah. Okay, I just love the fact that the main villain is a literal edgelord.
Yes, yes,
He
can.
literally he controls the edge system. And he's like, we do not want money. We do not want power. We want only war.
It's just like
Yeah.
Joker. He's Joker from Dark Knight. I just want to make a statement.
Yeah. Although in this case, it's, subverted by the fact that what he's trying to do is get everybody pissed off at him so that the world unites into a world without borders and ends all war because they can get everybody to fight a single enemy,
Yep, yep.
which kind of makes sense also because he's got a weird AI thing fucking with his brain as well the whole time. So it's like,
I mean, because it's kind of like Doctor Manhattan
mm,
in The Watchmen, where he tries to make the world unit by creating like this threat, which that's more of a threat to humanity than.
well, it was Ozymandias that did that.
Oh,
Dr.
oh yeah,
Manhattan was like,
Ozymandias.
yeah,
Yeah, who
Dr.
framed
Manhattan
Doctor
was just
Manhattan.
like, I'm just gonna let this happen.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
Because it
yeah. My
happens.
bad. Yeah, Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
keep forgetting because in the movie he framed.
yeah, he framed him. And in the
Yeah,
comic, it's a giant genetically engineered fake alien that
octopus. Yeah,
psiconically kills New York.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why would I explain my master plan to you if you had any chance of stopping it? I did it 30 minutes ago. That's a line right there.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, it's I it's not a bad game as of such. It's just not a very good front mission game if what you really want is one of the original strategy games.
Not just that. I think okay, like there's also Front Mission Online, which was the
Mm,
third person mech. But I think one thing that people that we all like about Front Mission is that it has a long story which with a conspiracy that slowly unfolds.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was not shown very well Evolve in
Yeah.
Evolved.
And my understanding is that that one takes place much further along the timeline, even after five, and the same thing goes for Left Alive. So, although that one does have its own kind of like I said, the story has some good. These thing games have some good aspects to them, especially Evolved compared to Left Alive. It's just
Mhm.
that the gameplay either was not what people wanted, or just
Yep.
was not up to the standards that it carried itself with the kind of pedigree that it had.
I pre-ordered Evolved, and then on the very same year when I visited Japan, Evolved was already on the 500 yen bin.
That does not sound good. Ugh.
That's harsh.
I think the worst thing I can say about Evolved is that I have to be very, very careful in some of the on foot sections because the game will crash if I,
Oh, really?
accidentally. There's a bug on PC for that kind of thing. It's hard to get
Ah,
around at certain levels. You can get around it. I have managed to beat the damn game. Oh, and
okay.
there's one other issue. There are certain parts in the campaign where you have to have certain parts. Like you
Mm,
have to have like quad
the
legs or you
hover
have to
legs.
have the hover legs.
Yeah.
Incidentally, are you playing on, I know you have the mechs that do have quad legs and stuff like that. You playing doing other like like tank legs or hover legs and stuff like that for Eisenfront?
Definitely, yes. I've got a prototype tank leg I'm working on, and hover legs I'm still trying to figure out a convincing way
Yeah.
to portray that.
Yeah, that's obviously hard,
Like like at least my idea in the hover is that the mechs are not perpetually hovering like in the front mission. It's more like they stand still. Then when they want to move or jump, it like kind of folds up and they jump. Then when they want to fire the weapons, it kind of falls back down where they ground themselves,
Mhm.
and then they
Yeah,
attack the target.
the hover is a bit more like the dash in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
I
would
mean that
have like possibly like, something that would allow it to like, trundle along a bit like on foot, but when it wants to dash somewhere, just like
it's pretty much like a jump. It pretty much serves as a jetpack because they
yeah.
could jump into the air and get the high ground effectively.
Yeah. Oh, incidentally, when it comes to jumping, I love the drop bear backpack thing with the
Yeah.
with the deployable front mace thrusters, and I always like that kind of those kinds of things on mechs, like you just jump out of the transport and just
High altitude landing high altitude
high
landing
altitude,
operation.
low opening.
All right,
Yeah,
yes.
for Halo jump.
But yes, the drop bear is you've noticed that there isn't a skill card to that a data card to that yet because I still haven't quite figured out how to implement like a deep strike
Hmm.
a Halo mechanic for that yet because it didn't really make much sense for at this point for a mercenary group to have access to like a high altitude vehicle to
Yeah.
deploy
Well,
their
I mean,
troops.
that's where you'd have like campaign rules that would come into that, like,
Yes.
you build up resources on the strategic level and then, use those on the tactical level.
Okay. Just a sec.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sean and I are going to Sixth Avenue to get some food. None for me then. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. All right. Catch you later. Okay. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No, no problem. I have three dogs and a baby at home, so I understand perfectly. But yeah, yeah, definitely there's definitely room for expansion, obviously, in terms of like, not just in terms of the capabilities of mechs on the ground, but also the scope in which they operate. But
Oh yeah.
considering what you've got so far, I think you've got a really good basis from which to operate here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So you can probably tell that the idea is that you're more like a mercenary or private military
Mm,
contractor who purchase your vehicle parts from the
yeah.
black market. I would assume like the the campaign mode, and I'm actually trying to toy around with like a single player version with a
Mm.
rudimentary set of like AI where like
That'd be useful, yeah.
the enemy will attack the enemy will attack the closest target or maybe have a priority target they will engage.
Yeah, depending on their weapon systems and
Yes.
objectives.
So like military enemies will have a more standardized models. Like they'll be equipped with their full sets as they are without much modifications.
Yeah.
Maybe like special forces will actually have like different weapons, and they will actually have the freedom to customize
Yeah.
their own machines.
Or even have
But
like a Mark II, like, experimental models that
yeah, like elite
yeah.
variations. Whereas you being a mercenary, you're more or less kind of getting what you're buying what you can get your hands on, and if you are wealthy, you can buy the best equipment out there.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the characters which I'm working on. Okay, do you know the concept of VTubers,
Oh,
virtual YouTubers?
VTubers? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to create a VTuber character who is an arms dealer. And what he does is whenever I release a new model, this arms dealer comes along, and he has a PowerPoint presentation on like this new model and specs on why you should buy it. So he's like
Oh,
sending
that's
out
nice.
these like videos to all the mercenaries and all the mercenaries with his catalog and stuff like
That
that.
reminds me of like the Chromebooks for Cyberpunk 2020, the equipment supplements, stuff like that. It was basically like depicted like a catalog for
Yeah,
for solos and stuff like that, where it's just like, hey, here's the new gun from Militech, and here's the new cyberware from Arasaka's Black Ops division. Buy now. It's
yep,
just and with a little bit like the rule stats are almost there, like official information or something like that almost, but it's just like it's the feel of it that really sells it in those cases. It makes really the stuff that's like the fluff as they call it, the lore, the kind
yeah,
of stuff that's not essential for mechanically get the game going, but it's the stuff that gives context and really makes people enjoy simply playing the game much more than if it was just like simple game of chess with mechs.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This arms dealer character, he's got contact within the military where he was like, oh, I hear this base got a new set of wands. I'm gonna need two of them to disappear from the inventory. I'm gonna organize an unfortunate accident to occur so I can steal these things. Then
Yeah.
he'll send out these messages to like the various leaders. And like, I've got a bunch of these new machines. There's only two available, so come get your hands on one if you're willing to fork out
Yeah.
the dough for it. And they'll be like, I don't ask you. I don't ask you what you're gonna do with my wares, so you don't ask me how I get my wares. Something like that.
Or else, if you want to go in another direction, it's like, yeah, I need a couple of these for a couple of these new fangled experimental mechs that are just coming out of the factory. Tell you what, you get some for me, and I'll let you keep one or two of them for yourself. Just
Yeah,
yeah,
along the line, a lot of underhanded dealings and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. Plus, that way you can always have a mission where you have to sneak into the base, take those mechs, and then pilot them out if you want to
Yeah,
get them. Yeah.
depends on how discreet you need it to be. Yeah,
And we are talking about giant killer robots, aka, humanoid war crime dispensers. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's probably not going to be too discreet after a certain point.
Especially when it involves attacking a military base. So the idea is like this. So like the idea is that he probably like hires someone to attack this convoy, whatever, and then he sends in a recovery team to quickly nab the stuff, and then he puts a blame on someone. All these like interweaving of activities with one another, and how he very slyly gets his hands on military grade equipment.
Yeah. Plus, it gives you an extra mascot you can use for the game as
Yeah,
well. That is always fun. Uh, yeah. Definitely, Eisenfront is something to keep an eye on, and not just in terms of like war game enthusiasts, but also, as you say, just people who enjoy putting together little plastic robots and stuff like that. So definitely, I'm going to be keeping an eye on anything you guys put out from now on, because holy crap, this is some fun stuff.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Is if anybody wants to get in touch with you and pursue acquiring your wares, where can they get some more information on Eisenfront?
Well, there's my online store, which is centerfirehobbies.com. Sean Suchanya, which is just my Twitter handle. Primarily that's it for now.
Yeah.
I do tend to I do tend to announce my my new models on some of the Facebook groups like 15mm sci-fi wargaming, for example.
Mhm.
But otherwise, yeah, I don't really have an active blog, which I update everything. But is it primarily Twitter
All right.
or X
Well,
for me, Twitter.
links for all these things are going to be in the description, so people who want to check this out, I highly recommend checking out the man's Twitter because he's got some really good artwork there. If you want to see what these machines look like when they're doing their thing and blowing the living hell out of each other, it looks really good. And of course, centerfirehobbies.com for all your tiny little mech needs. Sean, it has been a pleasure talking to you today.
Pleasure's mine.
Yeah, I will let you continue your morning. I'm gonna probably start going to bed soon. God, time zones are
Alrighty then.
weird. In any case, for everybody watching, my fellow mech heads, I've been Zero. This has been Sean. This has been a long-running advertisement for Center Fire Hobbies, and I am completely unashamed of it. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Good luck with your move.
Thank
and
you.
Take care.
All primary objectives complete. Mission successful.